Tonight, Donald Trump is losing again, including in key areas where he has tried to use or allegedly abuse government power to go after foes. But against those losses, he is doubling down on the so-called retribution tour. So it's really a story of two sides of the same coin. Here's how Politico, the nonpartisan Washington outlet, puts it. We've hit, quote, full throttle as they report the revenge campaign is expanding by the day with an ever-lengthening list of targets. This is something we've seen not only this week, but over the past several weeks. Trump sometimes loses. Some folks fight back. Some judges and courts agree with the people fighting back against what in some cases has been found to be government abuse or illegal and unlawful efforts to go after people. But then Trump, unlike really most modern presidents faced with setbacks, doubles down further. The testing, sometimes courting defiance. Testing the limits of what not only Trump but his aides can do in clearly risky ways, as some people win when they fight back.
The former FBI director's use of the term 86 has sparked something totally different, totally new, unprecedented, an investigation by the Trump administration. One
of the real problems we have in this country right now is the use of the president's power aiming at individuals who don't have my background or experience.
U.S. Attorney Alina Habba has announced charges against New Jersey Congresswoman LaMonica McIver.
This is not typical to charge a member of Congress, and neither is the way the Justice Department rolled it out.
It's political intimidation, and I'm looking forward to my day in court.
Pursuing her on that day's incident for a related, now collapsed case and arrest the same day of the Newark mayor.
We agreed to dismiss the case collectively. I mean, obviously, it was a baseless case.
The executive branch weaponizing government.
When you look at the investigations, it's a lot of critics of Donald Trump and Democrats.
Those who break the law should be prosecuted.
The Harvard community is reeling this morning after the Trump administration revoked its ability to enroll international students.
This is authoritarianism on steroids.
There you hear it. The escalation, what critics and foes call authoritarian tactics, even as in the first run, the early days, as we wrap up a week where the big case against a Democratic mayor was yanked by the Trump DOJ itself. We heard him there in that montage. That's the Newark mayor. So even as they lose that one on the Trump side, and even as Harvard is getting some good signs, they just keep expanding the target list, which raises serious questions about what to do when even their losses aren't dissuading them. So I want to get right to it tonight. Gene Robinson, the Pulitzer Prize winner, joins us and knows his way around so many of these issues. And for a more political perspective, an Obama campaign veteran, Che Komanduri. Welcome to you both. Gene, I show how this is going, and we have another Harvard and law firm headline here tonight I'll start with. Some firms bent, but now you have a judge striking down the order that targeted Jenner and Block. That's one of these firms. The ruling saying that Trump is, quote, trying to chill legal representation they don't like by punishing lawyers. The fairest way I can put it, Gene, is governments are allowed to issue orders and test things, but when they find out they're illegal, they have to stop. And that's really what is now being tested as we go into this holiday weekend in the next couple weeks. On the law firms, on that mayor I mentioned, they are being told to stop.
Yeah, they're being told to stop, but they're not stopping. I mean, they keep doing these things, and maybe this is what we have to look forward to for the foreseeable future. This isn't so much testing the boundaries of what of executive power, of what the president can do, because in some of these cases he's being told, absolutely, you can't do this. And yet he does it to somebody else, or he does it maybe in a slightly different way, or he does it more, and says, well, can I get away with that? And so the courts, once again, have been the sort of final, protection, our final protection against really an out-of-control executive. And this may have to go on for a while because I don't know how you make him stop other than telling him no, no, no.
Yeah. Che, we all know the term politics as usual.
Right.
This isn't supposed to be politics as usual. Letting it become usual even if they eventually back down, the Trump DOJ did drop the case against the mayor quickly. But they still think politically, that's where I turn to you on the politics, they think they're getting something out of it, and that not everyone will be like the mayor or James Comey and want to deal with this. So I leave that for your reflection, Che. We'll get your answer. I just want to share what the mayor, in his own words, Baraka, told us about that case being pulled. This was earlier this week.
Our lawyers and their lawyers got together and made a quick decision that this should be not tried in any court at all. I think this is clearly being driven by that desire to do what was said earlier, to hurt people, to embarrass people, to humiliate folks. And they'll go further than that if they can.
Che?
Yeah, I mean, so the Quentin Tarantino's Kill Bill opens with the line, revenge is a dish best served cold. The problem is that Donald Trump is serving us revenge piping hot. And that's actually the political problem. This is something that is designed entirely just for his base, entirely to show that he is an authoritarian, that he is showing masculine dominance over his enemies, but it's not reaching, you know, the average American, and Donald Trump's approval ratings are dropping because he's pursuing things like this.
Do you agree that the Supreme Court, as the vice president said, needs to, essentially he's saying they need to step up their efforts in terms of checking their own excesses?
Look, I think that J.D. Vance's Yale Law School education was completely wasted on him. I mean, you go back to 1803 in Marbury versus Madison, Chief Justice Marshall said it's emphatically the province and the duty of the judicial department and the Supreme Court to say what the law is. That's the role of the Supreme Court. So if anybody violates the law, it could be a state, a county, Congress, the president. The role of the court is to state what the law is and then to enjoin the unconstitutionality. That's not that complicated. Americans understand that. And J.D. Vance is just engaged in smoke and mirrors ever since he said that Donald Trump somehow gets to define what the law is for Article 2. I think not. And that's not something that any of the Republicans believed during the Biden administration when they were bringing lawsuits, you know, on a weekly or monthly basis to try to strike down everything that Joe Biden was doing in terms of climate policy, in terms of forgiving student loans, you know, how soon they forget. But in any event, that's clearly the role of the judicial department. And there's a record number of injunctions that have been entered against the lawlessness and the chaos of this administration. It's now more than 160 preliminary injunctions and temporary restraining orders. American history has never seen anything like this because we've got a completely lawless executive branch that wants to take over all of the institutions of society. That's not their role. And that's got nothing to do with conservatism, by the way. That's authoritarianism. That's something completely different, and nobody voted for that. They wanted to bring the price of eggs down, and the price of eggs have gone up, and the price of eggs Benedict is just intolerable. We cannot have them betraying the basic institutions and documents of the country like the Constitution and the Bill of Rights.
As the nation heads into the Memorial Day weekend with its commander-in-chief seemingly not in a solemn or reflective mood, but perhaps a more vengeful one. Today in the Oval Office, the president was asked about his administration's latest attack on Harvard University. Just yesterday, the Department of Homeland Security announced they were revoking the school's ability to enroll foreign students.
Are you considering stopping other universities besides Harvard from accepting foreign students?
Well, we're taking a look at a lot of things. And as you know, billions of dollars has been paid to Harvard. How ridiculous is that? Billions. And they have $52 billion as an endowment. They have $52 billion. And this country is paying billions and billions of dollars and then gives student loans and they have to pay back the loans. So Harvard's going to have to change its ways. So are some others.
Well, Harvard is, of course, not the only university that's been targeted by the Trump administration, or even the only university targeted yesterday. The Department of Health and Human Services accused Columbia of violating federal civil rights law by acting with what they call deliberate indifference toward harassment of Jewish students on campus since the October 7th attacks. It caps off a very busy week for the president and those in his administration in regards to investigations. Peter Baker, chief White House correspondent for the New York Times, posted on X a list of those who were, as he wrote, charged, investigated, or threatened with investigation by Trump or his team just in recent days. Here's his list: Letitia James, Andrew Cuomo, LaMonica McIver, a Democratic member of Congress, Kamala Harris, Bruce Springsteen, Beyonce, Bono, Oprah Winfrey, James Comey, unnamed treasonous Biden aides, the city of Chicago, and the Kennedy Center. As for Harvard, DHS Secretary Kristi Noem announced she was essentially banning these students from attending after she says the university failed to hand over 5 years of records on international students, specifying they should include any disciplinary actions as well as audio and video footage of any protest activity the students participated in. Harvard says they complied with the records request. Today, the university filed suit in federal court. They argued it was clear retaliation for Harvard exercising its First Amendment rights to reject the government's demands to control Harvard's governance, curriculum, and the ideology of its faculty and students. Now, the suit went on to say, with the stroke of a pen, the government has sought to erase a quarter of Harvard's student body. Foreign students do make up 27% of Harvard's enrollment this year. Even for a school with an endowment as large as Harvard's, potentially losing such a massive part of its students is no small threat. There are also concerns at other universities that whatever happens, it'll lead to a chilling effect, that the best and brightest students from around the world will not want to risk coming to any American institution for fear their lives and their studies could be upended by a mercurial administration. This is just the latest financial blow dealt to Harvard by the Trump administration. The White House already froze more than $2.6 billion in federal grants and contracts, and the IRS is making plans to revoke Harvard's tax-exempt status. Late today, some breaking news in the case. A federal judge granted a reprieve, temporarily halting the ban on foreign students, saying the school, quote, will sustain immediate and irreparable injury.
Failures happening, and Trump has just given up any pretense of being a normal president. During his first term, I'm not suggesting he was a normal president. Everyone thought, oh, well, this is going to be the moment where the office breaks Trump down and molds him into a real president. We remember those fantasies, right? Where people are like, maybe he's going to stop posting on social media once he's elected because, he's going to do it for a little bit and then he's going to be too busy being president. And like every other president, he's just going to not post on social media during his time in office. And that didn't happen. He was never normal. But it seemed like during that first term, he wanted to be seen as a normal president. He didn't want to do what was required to be a normal president, but he still wanted to be talked about as if he were. And maybe he still does, but he's trying even less now. The direct threats to the court, the direct making of an enemies list and then weaponizing it so quickly. Guys, it wasn't quite this bad last time. It wasn't. It was bad. It was probably worse than we remember it in some ways, but it wasn't this bad. It wasn't. And so what we're seeing is Trump just saying, no, like, I can't run again. Maybe he still has this fantasy about being a dictator for life. In any case, whether he doesn't run again because he can't, because he's not allowed under the Constitution, or he tries to become a dictator, in his mind, he never has to face you, the people, again at the polling booth, at the voting box. Doesn't have to. So he's acting like it. And he's basically saying, I'm going to be the bad guy. I'm going to threaten judges. I'm going to have my vice president act more like a thug than ever before. And I'm going to directly target people more than I did, 8 years ago. And what we're seeing is a clear sign. This man has no even desire now to act like a normal president.